VGK looks to continue its late season push against the division leading Canucks tonight as the Golden Knights return home after the 4-game road swing. We preview this matchup next, right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
Your Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Find us wherever you get your podcast. Make sure that you subscribe to the Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. We are brought to you today by FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So, Chris, VGK looks tonight to close the distance, to close the gap on both the Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers in the Pacific Division when the Golden Knights entertain Vancouver. Each team, 8 games remaining. The Golden Knights now, they trail the Canucks by just 10 points. I think it was up to about 16 at one juncture. 2 meetings remaining. The Oilers with a 5-point lead over Vegas. Can the Golden Knights make a run? Can they make a race of it? Suddenly, VGK has 90 points.
Golden Knights are in a nice spot right now. They have a chance to put a little bit of doubts in the minds of the Vancouver Canucks, and more importantly, the Edmonton Oilers, who cost themselves a point last night against the St. Louis Blues. Although I had the Blues last night at plus 180, so I'm going to pat myself on the back on that bet. But back to the situation in your question, can the Golden Knights close that gap? I think they can close it a little bit. I went on record twice now saying I think the Golden Knights with 3 games to go will still be mathematically alive to win the Pacific Division. I'll double down on that statement, and it all certainly starts with a win tonight against the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, the situation's pretty simple, right? The Canucks do lead by 10 points. The Golden Knights can top out right now with 8 games left? Is that 8 games remaining? They can get to 116 points. Vancouver right now, or 106 points, pardon me. Vancouver right now is at 100 points. So 6 points, 6 or 7. I don't know how the tiebreakers work out. I didn't look at that yet. But basically the Canucks, for all intensive purposes, they need 6 points one way or the other. And then they'll at least have the division locked as far as the Golden Knights are concerned. But obviously they're going to be sweating the Oilers too. So starts with a win tonight, and I think the Golden Knights can make a good game of it.
We remember the last meeting, the Canucks win it 3-1. What I recall in that game was that Noah Hannafin and Anthony Mantha, that was the first game that they both appeared in, although Mantha had the jet lag.
The box too, right away?
Yes, there were 2 early penalties in that game. And I just remember VGK could not break across the neutral zone. They had so many issues there. And I just remember Cassidy saying that there were too many long passes from the team. And so we'll have to see if there was progress for VGK from that meeting until now. I think this would be a good barometer game as well. What are your thoughts?
That was a good game. I mean, you look at the situation, you got new players on the team, trade deadline, all that hoopla happening. Still had concerns with the goalies at that time. I mean, there was a lot of just factors and circumstances, our favorite word of the show, a lot of circumstances in that game. And, the Golden Knights, I thought they started that game really well. And then those back-to-back penalties, I think it was a Quinn Hughes goal. Maybe that was the second goal. But either way, I know Quinn Hughes had one of the goals. And
5-hole.
That's right. There was that bad 5-hole goal in that game. Aiden Hill I do remember that goal. That was a terrible goal. And people were trying to excuse that. But, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, the Golden Knights still held the Canucks to 3 goals. I think 2 of them were, I was trying to pull it up here. I think 2 of the goals were special teams goals. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong on that. All right. So 1 power play goal. So the Golden Knights lost the game 2-1, 5-on-5. But again, new players in the lineup. Eichel not in the lineup that game, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Point being is it's going to be both are going to be different teams. You got no Thatcher Demko tonight either in net for the Vancouver Canucks. So both teams are a little bit different tonight, and I think it's going to be a better game for the Golden Knights. That's a very easy statement to make right now.
How about this? Here's a statistic for you, Mr. Golick. Quinn Hughes, 81 points, but he's plus 38 on the season, and he's plus 55 in wins. So the number one goal for VGK is they have to shut down Quinn Hughes. And then we also talked in previewing the last meeting about how successful the Canucks were when they scored the first goal.
That's right,
I guess and Gustav Forsling leads the NHL with a plus 46. Plus 46, that's unheard of, isn't it?
I don't know if it's unheard of, but it's a HE double hockey sticks of a statistic right there. I mean, that's pretty dang good. Vegas Golden Knight legend Teddy Bluger is actually having himself a very nice season as well. 60 games, 26 points, plus 8, presumably probably on the third or fourth line most of the time. So a really good depth piece that just the Golden Knights had no room for this season. You got JT Miller, 94 points, Elias Pettersson, who looks like he's going to be a Canuck for life, or at least for a long time, 84 points. So, I mean, the Canucks team is the one team that really makes me nervous that I would like the Golden Knights to avoid if there's any way possible for as long as possible in the playoffs. They're good. They're a lot better than the Oilers, in my opinion, and everyone else in the Pacific Division and most of the Central Division teams. So you do have a potential, I guess, the way the playoffs are mapped out, a potential second round matchup based on the trajectory of both teams right now. And what a matchup, Vegas and Vancouver, possibly, I know a lot has to happen, possibly in the second round. Who's their backup goalie over there? Let's take a look at this. Who are we expecting tonight? Casey DeSmith?
Yeah.
Casey DeSmith?
Yep. I think
901, 271. Okay.
They went with Arturs Silovs, the last contest, their last game, but that was against Anaheim, so that didn't really count. So, yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. Demko among the league leaders in victories with 34, and so there will be a drop off in this game tonight. Yeah, and was there any news about Aiden Hill back on the ice yesterday? I didn't see anything.
No. Yuri
was out still.
Yeah, I mean, I think Yuri Patera, we got a little excited. At least maybe I got a little more excited than other people. But Yuri Patera was practicing yesterday with Logan Thompson. So it's nearly a foregone conclusion. The goaltender combinations tonight will be Logan starting with Yuri backing up, and then we'll see what happens later in the week. I know they sent Yuri back down as far as the emergency loan. I'm going on Cap Friendly right now, see if anything has changed quietly today.
I didn't see anything.
And here we go. Actually,
it did?
Emergency loan called back up April 1st. So there you go. So he's back.
I thought that was an April Fool's joke. Okay.
Yeah, no, he went down on the 31st, back up on the 1st. So there you go.
Okay. Tomas Hertl was on the ice, non-contact jersey. You had anticipated this like 3 weeks ago. And so now
I thought he would possibly play tonight, but I knew he'd be on the ice by now as well.
Well, he's on the ice, and I just have a feeling they might have snuck him in. Like, I think he might have been on that trip and practicing, but who knows?
Maybe, I don't know.
How will VGK
one
line
practice like the entire trip? I mean, and then the rest were pregame, probably optional skates with like 4 players
that we know about. How will VGK line up defensively tonight? Will they stay with the same defensive pairings as the last game? How do you what do you change if you're Bruce Cassidy?
I mean, here's why you got to give a lot of credit to Cassidy right now. I mean, the Golden Knights in their last 5 games, they've given up 1 goal each game. I think they've used 5 different combinations if you go back and look at it. So this is where Cassidy gets a ton of credit. I mean, Hagen Hanifin, I like that line. You're not going to separate that. Theodore McNabb.
Are they the number one pairing though? Or does it even matter?
Sure, on paper, sure, but I don't. It's irrelevant. It's like when Marian Hossa was a third liner with the Blackhawks. It wasn't their third line, or Mark Stone was the third line in the playoffs. Like it's all irrelevant. So Theodore and McNabb, they're basically the conjoining twins. There you go, Tony. Word of the show. They're not going anywhere. So basically, now you got the combination of Hutton and Whitecloud, or Pietrangelo and Martinez. Pietrangelo is going to be in the lineup. will they maybe move Martinez in and out of the lineup? I think if there's any load management happening with the Golden Knights, it's Alec Martinez. He's getting up there. His body's taken enough of a toll. So keep him fresh come playoffs, because I don't see a path to him being scratched in the playoffs. But Ben Hutton's been so good too. Like this is interesting seeing how this all shakes out. But I think they go with the same D pairings as the Saturday game against the Wild, and hopefully Eichel finishes this game.
One area that both of these two teams tonight need to improve on to get some sort of chemistry heading into the playoffs, some consistency, special teams. Both teams really do need to improve. I know we know VGK's woes, but equally as bad are the Canucks. And so that's something that they're going to have to get some momentum heading into the playoffs, each team.
There's been much made about the Golden Knights' first power play of the game that was talked about on TV for a little bit by ESPN. And the Golden Knights' first power play is just abysmal every time. They just, for whatever reason, can't get that rhythm, that synergy going. And somebody say a million times on the podcast, yes, it's nice when they score goals, but the power play's job, besides scoring a goal, is to get momentum. It's to get those chances. It's to tire out the other team's best defensive players. So later in the game, it possibly leads to a mistake made. So you can't have the momentum killed on a power play. That's the number one goal. And the Golden Knights have a very unique power play in the sense that they rely on motion. They rely on getting the other team's players moving in a lateral fashion to create passing lanes and shooting lanes. And it just hasn't worked nearly as well as the Oilers or the Tampa Bay Lightning or other teams who have very, very good power plays. And there's one thing where the Golden Knights might need to reconsider. It could be that.
Well,
that style.
The solution here is put stinking Mantha right there in the bumper position and let him have at it. I just want to see that, and I want to see how effective he could be.
I'm old school. Put Theodore in the quarterback spot, have him make one move and a low risk shot, and then, yes, have Mantha or whoever you want to put in that position. Nick Waugh, good example. Stevenson can even get it done. Just screen the goalie, shoot for sticks. Like Cassie says, shoot for sticks. Right. Put a body in front of the net and fire. I mean, how many times do we see the Golden Knights get scored on in the same way? Go ahead before the fog rolls in.
The fog is coming in. Coming up next, oh boy. You were at it yesterday, Golick. The spirit of the salary cap. Gary Bettman says everyone is satisfied with the system. I don't know if I believe that, but we get into that discussion next, right here on Locked On Golden Knights. The sports calendar is absolutely loaded, like Golick was yesterday, drinking his beer on the Twitter. And FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get into the action, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200, and you can use that money to bet on the tournament, men's or women's tournaments. Women are just on fire. That was so much fun yesterday. Major League Baseball, Yankees 5-0, NBA, NHL, go Knickerbockers, go New York Rangers. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights, Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you doing so. Don't forget, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. And, of course, on Saturdays, Chris Times Chris show. And that's the YouTube exclusive. And Fridays, it's WTF. You're not knocking anything over today, Mr. Golick. Although yesterday, you were spicy AF, man. You were really spicy yesterday.
I had a good day.
Okay, the spirit of the salary cap.
I think I got 2 blocks yesterday. It's a good day.
You got blocked by 2 folks. Why?
At least one.
Okay, but why? I don't quite understand what the argument was about.
Because this is what happens. So this is how the day starts, right? Hurdle is back on the ice, so of course everyone is flipping out. And just a reminder, Hurdle's injury timeline was already established even before the Golden Knights trade was a twinkle in McCrimmon's eyes. So let's make sure we're clear about that, but people don't seem to understand it, and that's fine. We can go on from there. So West Coast hockey bias, just in basically the Kings version of Fitz, another incompetent clown.
I get along with these guys. Those guys are okay.
There's a
Go
reason
ahead.
for that.
Okay.
But no, West Coast hockey bias jumps in and they're chirping about the cap. Fine, whatever. So I make the comment, they're Kings fans. Kings got bigger problems to worry about, like staying in the playoff hunts so they can be a first round out. It's legit. West Coast hockey bias jumps in. Very true. They have the advantage of not manipulating the spirits of the salary cap every season. The spirit of the salary cap. What are you smoking, West Coast hockey bias? And then, of course, the next thing is my favorite question to ask everybody because no one can answer it. What rule have the Vegas Golden Knights or the 16 other teams that are over the upper limit of the salary cap with LTIR money? What rule have they broken? And then radio silence comes, or it's something like, oh, well, Bettman wants the Golden Knights, or then it's the Golden Knights were gifted a team, blah, 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 blah. But this clown didn't even have the audacity to respond. They just started throwing block hammers out to everybody on the thread. And then, alas, the spirit of the salary cap was born. And our second segment on today's show, there's already jerseys being printed with the spirit of the cap and the number 24. There's already a troll Twitter feed that's now renamed to, I think, the spirit of the salary cap. Like, this was just so much fun yesterday. Like, these are fun days on social media. I know there's a lot of crap days on social media, but yeah, there's a lot of fun days. What was it? Where I sent you the picture of it. Oh yeah, it's the spirit of salary caps past. That's the new Twitter troll handle that was born as a result. And it's not me doing
funny.
it. I don't have any
that's
burners.
Funny. That's great. You don't have any burners? Okay.
I don't. Well, I'm a Facebook burner when I get comment blocked, but I don't have a Twitter one. But that's for my business more or less than anything.
I don't have one either. I have about a dozen. That could have been me. It could have been me. Oh,
Pretty
I
awesome
think
if
that
it
this
was,
entire stinking, I think this system, Chris, is so antiquated. I know. I just think it's antiquated. Collective bargaining agreement negotiated almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Thinking, get up with the times. Like, this is ridiculous. And you should have some parameters about how you would utilize it. And for Bettman to say everyone is satisfied, well, no, I don't think everyone is. And the people that are on that committee currently, whatever the heck they call it, the spirit of the cap committee or whatever they're calling it right now, like they're all old school hockey dudes. This is a joke. I think the entire system needs to be retooled. I really do.
What you're saying isn't necessarily completely wrong. And I get to a degree what you're saying. A couple of things. One, this was put in place by the general managers, by the owners, by the Players Association. No one wants the star players out in the playoffs. Neither side. Let's be clear about this. The reason the LTIR is put in is because if your star player or a group of players suffers a long-term injury, basically heading out to the playoffs, you have the ability to replace them. So your season isn't gone. And then if they're fortunate enough to heal and come back, then yeah, you got a loaded roster. It is what it is. Now, if there's a fair question to ask, and I think we need to see this from both sides, at least I see it on both sides, and Tony does too. But a fair question to ask is, and this is something that some of the GMs have been wondering about, if a player isn't healthy enough to be in game 82 of the regular season, but all of a sudden game 1 of the postseason, they're out there skating around and doing well, there's questions to be asked. And could there be a legit, timeline where that's just how it works out? Sure, 100%. People are also going to question Mark Stone's situation last year and, his back and his back surgeries and everything. And I guess the question you can ask about Mark Stone, and that no one's going to get a good answer on, but was Mark Stone healthy enough to return 4 games prior? Like, could Mark Stone come back legitly in game 79 of the regular season? And then that the Golden Knights would be over the salary cap. I still don't understand McCrimmon's comments last season about that, or earlier in the season about that. But yes, then the Golden Knights would be over the cap. That's a question that the NHL should ask any team, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have a $100 million roster, $16 million over the upper limit. So there are fair things that should be looked at with the salary cap. and the LTIR, but something that gets swept under the rug by everyone wearing their tinfoil is that the Golden Knights did get looked into last year by the National Hockey League. Elliot Friedman did report this. There were multiple teams, probably Canadian teams that rhyme with Jets and Oilers, that wagered complaints saying, hey, what's going on? The NHL looked into it and found no wrongdoing. The press conference you and I just watched, someone asked a question about injuries and how do they modify, or how does the NHL monitor these injuries in LTIR? Yeah. He said bona fide injuries was the comment that Bettman made.
That's the new tagline. Bona fide injuries. What like it this just bothers me. There should be a salary cap in the playoffs. Number one. Plain and simple.
What you're saying isn't wrong. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Have won if there was a salary cap in the Stanley Cup? I don't know.
Now, yes and no, Tony. Here's what everyone's going to tell you on
what Twitter. We need to do to satisfy ourselves that these injuries have been bona fide for a period of time that LTIR was applicable. What? This is dinosaur era. This is ridiculous.
Everyone's going to, Tony, the comments you're going to get are that the Golden Knights during the playoffs had a cap compliant roster last year, but it doesn't factor the injuries and players that weren't on the ice. So you're right, and you're on the right track. And I'm not against a change, and I don't think anyone is against a change. Let's be clear about this. But right now, I think the bigger conversation is the Golden Knights and 16 other teams are not breaking a current rule right now that is on the table. If the GMs want to get together and change something, fine. But the second a star player, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, a level one talent like Jack Eichel, sorry, I had to get that in there. Players like that, Leon Draisaitl, Connor Bedard, if the Golden Knights make the playoffs, there is not a world that exists where there is not going to be a safety nets for a star player to return in the playoffs. End of story.
Okay.
End of story. Is that right or wrong? The people that the billionaires can discuss that among themselves, and they can argue about that. But I'll tell you right now, there's not a world that exists where those players will not have a path to returning to the ice for injury. End of story.
You cannot convince me that the bona fide made men aren't cooking the books. And okay, so the league uses an independent third-party physician to confirm medical records and will do a physical examination. Dr. Saravelli working OT? Who's this third-party doctor?
Hey, Sarah, I'm staying away from Saravelli right now.
No.
He was on a heater the other day.
Seriously, is it a doctor from Las Vegas? I want to know who this third-party doctor is that said there was no wrongdoing by VGK last year with Mark Stone. I just wasn't convinced.
It's fair. Listen, and there's every other fan base is going to say the same thing, Tony, and that's fine, and that's okay. What choice do we have to believe it or not to believe it? That's the thing. I mean, maybe there's a doctor in this city that could care less about hockey and the Golden Knights, or maybe there's just an outstanding doctor in this city that separates that does their job without any pressure. I don't know. And for us to speculate exactly how that happens, or if the doctor is in Vegas or Carson City or Timbuktu, whatever. I mean, that's not for us to figure out. Someone else can figure that out. But I mean, if you're going to enjoy hockey, if you're going to enjoy the game, I think you have no choice but to believe that, whether it's your team making a Stanley Cup run or whether you're up in Canada and you're pissed off that your country hasn't won a cup since '93. Or if you're out there in Buffalo, you're pissed off that your Sabres haven't been in the playoffs in 14 years. Or if you're in San Jose, you're all pissed off that your team has no direction and people like Fitz are being disowned by their own fan base.
We hadn't followed him, by the way, that guy. So let's not even mention him. A must-win game.
That got us 50 clicks, Tony, just by saying his name. I gotta drive clicks, bro. Gotta drive clicks.
Must-win game tonight. VGK
must
against
win.
The Canucks. We will have the bona fide locks of the night and our predictions on the way right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
Oh, that was fun right there.
Regardless of where we are in the current standings, of course, VGK making a late season run. We want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. It's our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contest, and you have to figure out what players you would take this week to win 100 times your money. You could connect with a lot of other fans, and you can make your entries in under 1 minute. And all you have to do is pick which studs you would take to score points. That's about it. Quinn Hughes, as we said, moving up the charts there with a plus 36, 37, whatever I said earlier. Of course, more or less, they have to have their sleeper projections. They need to exceed them. They do have plus minus as one of the goals there. They do have goals, assists, saves, much more. And to win 100 times your bet on sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard us, VGK fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with sleeper. So start paying attention. Pick Austin Matthews and nail your pick so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you will get $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use. Welcome back on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you doing so. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. A lot of folks coming in from all over the world. I have to tell you this, Chris Golick. Yesterday, we had 6 downloads from Kuala Lumpur. So with this new system that we have here, I can track where everyone's at. So thank you so much. Big shout out to Kuala Lumpur this morning. All right, time for our...
Could you point to where that is on a globe if I put it in front of you and you had 5 seconds to find it?
Yeah, it's down there. Because they have a map, right? Okay, globally. And then you can just go around. You see these, it's like heated up in these different areas, right? Heat map. And then you go over here. And then that's where you just click on there and go, where are these people listening from? And then I go, holy smokes, 6 stinking downloads. Huge
cool.
Fans.
That's pretty cool, honestly. Like, I don't know where that is, but it's pretty dang cool.
Locks of the night and predictions. Okay, my bona fide locks of the night. VGK cannot stand to make the long passes. No chip and chase tonight. I have VGK on the winning end for once. I'm going to go with Mantha and Marchessault. Scoring first, very important in this matchup. And watch out, Vancouver, if they score first, they likely win. That's my prediction. VGK 3, Vancouver 2. My bona fide pick.
So you're taking the M&M's,
M&M
Mantha
kids.
and Marcha 3-2 Golden Knights. I like that. I'm with you. I think the Golden Knights character win, statement win, must win, whatever terminology you want to throw out there. I think the Golden Knights do stand up and show up and take advantage. I mean, no Thatcher Demko. That's a big loss. Casey DeSmith is doing fine. He's a 901, 271 goals against, but he's a far, 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 gap between Demko and DeSmith. Although 49 games played for Demko. How many shootouts has he been in?
He'll be gassed by the end.
Demko's been in 0 shootouts this season, where
that's crazy.
Smith looks like he's been in 2 different shootouts by the save percentage. So 4-1 Golden Knights. Logan Thompson. I mean, 1's been the magic number. Logan Thompson's been amazing. I think Logan Thompson will carry this game. Golden Knights are going to score first in the first. Eichel and Stevenson. Eichel's going to be shot out of a cannon, and I think he's going to be a little pissed off over being ejected from Saturday's game. That'll be interesting to see if that comes up in the post game at all. But Eichel and Stevenson, 4-1 Golden Knights. They roll tonight. And just remind the Canucks, the Pacific Division, and the entire NHL that's still the Golden Knights Stanley Cup to lose. And I think they're not getting enough respect right now, as weird as this sounds.
Something I did not mention yesterday on the show was I was on Saturday after the Minnesota VGK game. I was reading one of the recap articles, and I saw that Ryan Hartman had a meltdown with the referees.
3-game suspension.
He got a 3. Okay, why would they give him a 3-game suspension when
mandatory?
Peter Angelo pushes him into Thompson, and he gets called for a penalty there. After the game, he threw his stick at the officials, which is an absolute no-no. Although under the collective bargaining agreement of 20 years ago,
between the third and overtime, but either way, he did it. Yeah.
okay, earned him a
Modified
3-game
collective bargaining
suspension
agreement.
for unsportsmanlike conduct. And
Awesome.
NHL players' safety, which wakes up at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, New York City time, said Hartman was also inappropriately verbally berating
Yeah.
the
Mean.
officials, not beating them.
Mean.
Well,
Not a nice guy. Bad.
that wasn't a bad stick throw. I mean, get your money's worth, like seriously. Okay, coming up on
Oh yeah,
tomorrow's
no. If
show-
you're gonna do it, like take an eye out or something. Yeah, maybe be a 4-game suspension then. But yeah,
in the spirit of the stick throwing.
spirit of the stick throw.
The spirit of spearing will be on tomorrow's show too. We appreciate everyone tuning in. For my man Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you again tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
Take care.